Hey, this is Troy Taylor with the Championship Football Coaches Clinic podcast, sponsored by Reps, Virtual Reality, First Down Playbook, Rack Coach, Tip of the Spear, The Top Hopper, Sports Workbook, Next Pick, and Sideline Sports Network, which we're streaming on live. Today, I got the new doc in the house. Dr. Nick Garrett, our co-host, is back, and we got Michael Wyche. Mike's got a book out. We're going to talk about his book, but I didn't know it. But you're from the 757, and I'm from the 804, and people are always trying to get me to start beef with the 75, and I never will do it. I won't do it because I respect the 757 and everything that y'all have done down there. So tell us a little bit about where you're from, Mike, for those that don't know.
Well, I'm from Chesapeake, Virginia. Grew up in a small section in Chesapeake called South Norfolk. Went to Oscar Smith Middle School and high school. Uh, Ended up going to college. I went to junior college first out in California, um, East Los Angeles College. And from there, I made a name for myself at East LA. And the rest was history, man. I went to the University of Miami, uh, went with the Packers for a little bit. And now I'm training professional athletes, college athletes. So I own my own company called Michael Wyche Enterprises, and we teach defensive line and outside linebackers how to mentally and physically perform at an elite level on and off the football field.
Yeah, man. And me and my brother, we went down to watch y'all play. And Perry, who's the coach up here in Richmond, we watched him play with Askew. Those are y'all's two inside linebackers. And my brother said, if I got one person to pick, I'm picking Perry Jones because that guy was an inside backer. He went to UVA and played tailback, but he was all over the place. And what a great program Oscar Smith is. Dr. Garrett is on. Now, Dr. Garrett, you shared with me that last week you had a coach that was talking to you about Michael Wyche, and now we're on here with Mike. So can you tell everybody about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I had the opportunity to take on the offensive coordinator position, recruiting coordinator position in 2009 through 2012 at East LA College, my right-hand guy was Steve Maharo, who at that time was the offensive line coach, run game coordinator. And we worked hand in hand, and we're still close to this day, literally like family. We check in, off and on. And, we were talking about Mr. Michael here, and how he came from humble beginnings, and when Steve Maharo was referring to him, he just got really emotional and knew everything about him, and that's the type of guy Maharo is. He's a straight shooter, but he's such a man of humility that he'll give you the shirts off his back. And he just said, like, this young man, came from here, went through X, Y, and Z, and all this adversity, and he came out on top. Never made excuses, always had a big smile on his face, and was a great teammate and fun to coach and just a great human being. And so it's just funny how now we're on here literally after talking about him just a few days ago.
Yeah, it's such a blessing.
That's
So,
great.
like, Mike, where do we begin with your story? You wrote the book, and why did you write the book? What was it that moves you to put this down in a book?
Well, the book that y'all seeing right now that's floating around, is titled "Grief Through His Eyes: Seeing Grief from His Point of View," Volume 2. Um, I'm actually a co-author in that book. So it's 15 other co-authors in there. The visionary, her name is Deborah Fry. She's actually a grief specialist. Um, she helps a lot of guys through, people in general through grief. That's what she does, and I'm so happy that I met her because she helped me get a lot of things off my chest when I was dealing with a lot of trauma, especially at East LA. Man, I went through it at East LA, personal wise. I lost a lot of people. I lost a lot of key people in my life. My mother was one of them. Coach Maharo actually didn't even know if I was going to play that year, but after I buried my mother, I came right back and played in the game. So, so the book came about because her and I were talking. I actually got referred to her from one of my friends because I'm actually writing my own solo book titled Generational Curse, the Michael Wyche story. So I was asking him, do he know any authors in the area that I get some pointers from? It's my first time writing a book. I'm a very excited writer, but I just wanted to get some pointers. And he was like, "Hey man, you should reach out to this lady named Miss Deborah Fry. She has a book out." He was telling me that she's like a 15-time like best-selling author. Like she's doing her thing. So I reached out to her and she immediately answered. And uh, I was asking her about some pointers in the book, and I was telling her, my background and um, just giving her a rundown on me. And she was like, "I'd love for you to partner with me in my book." And I was like, "What's your book about?" And she was telling me that it was titled "Grief Through His Eyes." That's all she had to say was the title of the book, and I was like, "I'm in." Because mental health was huge on me. It was the reason that I stopped playing the game because I could have still been playing right now, without a doubt. I could have still been. I probably would have been on another NFL team right now, but I decided to shut it down and focus on my mental health because I was an elite athlete suffering in silence, which people don't talk about all the time. And I in the book I shine a light on, especially junior college players. That JUCO route, man. That JUCO route is crazy. That people don't know about is um, it was definitely humbling, So that book was meant for me to be in there, and it shines a light on a lot of mental health that a lot of athletes go through. That people that think we just sack quarterbacks on TV and catching high flying passes and throwing beautiful touchdown passes and running touchdowns. They think that's all we do. But when we go back in the locker room and take off the helmet, little do they know we still human. And you know, emotional wreck. I see a lot of people when they comment on a lot of things about certain athletes, like like an Antonio Brown or somebody like that. It's something wrong. Something ain't right, and it's not because he lost his mind or nothing like that. No, it's something. It's some trauma there. It's some mental health going on there that he don't want to talk about, and I see it firsthand because I've been there and I've done that. So, but I've kind of seen a lot of players go through that, and they just get like talked about, not helped. It's a big problem in the sports business.
I got a question for you. Is it Wyche? Am I saying that correctly, sir?
White, yeah.
Wyche. Okay. So I appreciate you, shining some light on mental and emotional health and intelligence. I think, like you said, a lot of people don't touch on it. It's kind of that gray area that people look past when in all actuality, you can't perform at your highest level in anything that you're doing without it. Um, Now, you had mentioned also about, the grind of junior college, and obviously East LA. Everyone talks about Last Chance U and things of that nature. One of the people that was on there that I thought was very similar to myself and Coach Mahara was Dorothy Teola. Can you talk a little bit about how she helped maybe support you as far as making sure you had what you need to go get in order to get to Miami, and talk a little bit about your relationship with Coach Maharo and some of those relationships at East LA that helped get you to where your next stop was along your journey?
Without that whole staff, um, I wouldn't be the man I am today. I would have never graduated. I would have never got my associate's degree. Dorothy Teola was a dream come true when I got there because she mapped out everything for us, told her what we needed to take, tell us. She told us, what we need to do to pass. Um, she was like that mother figure that was, cause we were thousands and thousands of miles away from home. I'm from Virginia. We in California by
Yeah.
ourselves. You got to pay to eat. You got to pay to live. You got to pay to do everything. So you out there by yourself, and she was definitely a mother figure on the West Coast for me, and made sure I stayed straight because she cared about more than academics. She cared about you as a person too, and you could always go in there and talk to her, and she'd give you advice. She'd give you the shirt off her back. If you were short on money, she'd give you money. Like, she was just a great person. And Coach Maharo was interesting. Um, he was the first coach I ever met that was, how can I say this? He had his own identity, man. He won't he won't like a coach that I was used to. He was more of a calm, he was more of a teacher, he was more of a relaxed, like, if you're not having fun, why are you out here? Like, because usually you see a lot of coaches yelling and all that, and Maharo didn't have that approach. And he had a very humbling approach. He had now he'll teach now. Don't get it wrong, but he had a more calm approach to the game, and it makes you want to play for him very hard because he cares about his players. He cared about getting his players out, and he gonna fight for you, get you out of there. He let you play your game. He one of the funnest coaches I ever played for, man. Like, he let you be you. He met you where you were, and he let you be you. Yeah, that was the great thing I enjoyed about Steve Maharo. Um, he let you be you. He let you be yourself. He accepted you for who you were, and yeah, he let you be you.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring this up, and Mike, you can comment on it, or Doc, you can comment on it. I was watching a podcast, and y'all might have seen it, and it's Jay-Z, and it's what's the little short comedian's name? Little funny dude, Kevin
Kevin
Hart.
Hart. Yeah.
Did y'all see the podcast that Kevin Hart and Jay-Z did?
Nah.
Okay, well, like on the podcast, the thing that Jay-Z says is that the one thing they don't teach you about in school is emotional intelligence. And I was like, emotional intelligence? What is that? So I started looking into it, and I don't know how much y'all know, but just in my own words, emotional intelligence is, like Jay-Z says, his dad wasn't around, and that caused friction between him and his mom, and his mom couldn't understand why his dad wasn't there. And the reason was, after Jay-Z got older, was that his dad's brother had been killed, and the cops ain't do nothing about it because they were from Marcy. And man, he really didn't understand what all was going on as a kid, and he had resentment for his dad. But once he learned about that, he could understand why his dad was doing what he was doing. And emotional intelligence is knowing why you have those emotions, and it's okay. It's okay to be mad. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be depressed. And also that you have the emotional intelligence to understand or have empathy for others and how they may feel. Michael, I mean, do you agree with Jay-Z that emotional intelligence is something that they don't teach you in school? And do you know anything about it?
I know a little bit about it, and no, they don't teach you that in school, and that's a big thing that you got to have to survive in this world, um, especially like controlling your emotions as well. And it comes from uh, trauma. It comes from going through things, not understanding why you had to go through things. And I used to tell people all the time, like, I was never an individual that complained about my situation. My father doing 40 years in prison. My mother passed away, cancer, after a long battle with drug addiction. Um, my mentor, who was also a Green Bay Packer, happened to take me in at the end of the day because everybody turned their back on me. And he ended up playing at Virginia Tech. Then he went to Green Bay for a little bit with the Jets. and Baltimore Ravens. So it's definitely something that yeah, he right. He right. And it also can trigger you. It also can trigger you to to not knowing how to handle certain people in certain situations in society. So sometimes it can make you unapproachable, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Huh. Doc, what do you think? Give us your doctorate opinion on this.
No, I think he hit it right on the head. I don't think it's covered. It's something I make a point to cover with my kids, and I've always done that, including I really got really good at it, honestly, at East LA, just because of the different socioeconomic upbringing some of these kids came from. Now, some kids come from an affluent family, and some kids come from, I mean, the worst of the worst. Mom being in prison, fathers murdered, people coming from a park, literally have no address, bouncing from couches to couch, and just really having a general understanding of empathy and what that looks like, and letting kids know it's okay to feel the way you're feeling. It's okay to have a bad day. It's okay to go through some trauma and depression and issues, but just know um, we're here to help you go through that journey. And when young men such as uh, Michael here are going through that, if they have some support mechanisms in place to help them navigate through that, they'll be able to understand and trust and have success. And I think a lot of times when people run through mental health issues, they have a general lack of trust. And so their demeanor comes off a certain way. How they speak and become defensive comes off some type of way. But until you know the actual person and build those relationships, you really don't know, like he just stated.
I'm almost embarrassed to admit this, but I'm 45, and it was probably about maybe a year and a half ago that I really started studying Maya Angelou. And I knew she was a poet, but I didn't know her story. And one way that you can reach kids is by teaching them about other people's stories. And I don't know, are y'all familiar with Maya Angelou and what happened to her?
Yeah, she got raped and
She was
everything.
raped.
Yeah.
She was raped by a family, her mom's boyfriend, and then she told somebody. So then that guy, or her brother went and told some dudes, and they went and killed the guy. And then she didn't talk for like 5 years. And all she did was read every book in the black school library and every book in the white school library. And that trauma, that pain that she went through caused her to be the GOAT. And my favorite poem by her is I Am a Human Being. And it's from a quote by a slave named Terrence. And he says, I am a human being. Therefore, nothing human is alien to me. And so when you think about that, for me, it's easy to understand that I'm a human being and I'm capable of robbing a bank. Like, I'm a human being and I'm capable of going and doing something stupid. But she also means it the other way, that you're a human being, but you're also capable of being Martin Luther King and Mahatma Gandhi and Mother Teresa, and Malcolm X. It's all in the same poem. So, talk about that, Mike. Teaching kids about other people who have overcame pain and struggle and to have empathy. Would that have helped you?
Absolutely, man. That would have helped me. That would have helped me big time. Back then as a child growing up, using other people's stories, and that's kind of what I do now. I don't just use my story because I can't. I feel like this. I can't reach every kid. My story don't relate to every kid. So if I tell them the Dr. Nick Garrett story, or I tell them the Coach Troy Taylor story, you know, now I got more ways to reach them because they might can relate to your story more than they can relate to mine. So I do that a lot, especially when I go speak. I might even make up a story, about something that I done seen before, or that I done went through. I done made up brilliant stories that I done went through, and I didn't even want nobody to know I went through it, so I used another name. So anything to be creative to get these kids out of their seat, or something that they've seen before, and I might try to make up something that they relate to that they done seen on TV, but put a success solution that comes to it. So anything to attract them, and that's important. That's very important.
Yeah, Doc, what you thinking?
I just think, again, you guys touched on a lot of really good points. I think people don't understand outside of just empathy is being an advocate for young men and women in today's era. Because I stated this before. The mental health recovery from the pandemic, we're still nowhere where we need to be. But prior to that, people weren't really addressing it as much. And because when it happened, and post pandemic, they're like, well, wait a minute, kids are struggling academically, socially, economically, spiritually, and all that. They're like, well, now we have a problem. What are we going to do to figure it out? Well, it's always been a problem. Just no one was willing to address it because they just didn't understand. Because unless you've been through some adverse situations throughout your life, or have someone explain it to you, or have the resources available, how would you know what it's like? Number one, and number two, how are you going to help someone else navigate through that?
Yeah, like one thing I tell my kids is like, I used to drive Uber and Lyft during the pandemic, and some of the best people lived in the worst neighborhoods. They used to thank me like, thank you for coming and pick me up. I just need to go to work. No one will even come in here. And some of the worst people lived in the best neighborhoods, and it didn't matter what they looked like. So, I put that there for our guys and our girls because I teach. Um, so, like Doc, you're big into recruiting. I mean, you went to junior college, and everybody's story is different. And we talk about Tom Brady. He's the GOAT, but he didn't start as a freshman on a freshman team that didn't win a game. Aaron Rodgers was told he's a D3 quarterback by Florida State. So everybody goes through rejection and adversity, but how do you answer back? But like Mike, like I think the pain and the trauma that you've experienced, I mean, recruiting rejection, really, I mean, kids have to deal with that. But in perspective, like our program, I mean, even this podcast, like we hang our hat on three things. One, we want to change lives. Two, we want to help others get to the next level, to get better. Three, we want to build champions for life. And that's what we preach. I've been the head coach at Meadowbrook High School, right on Route 10. I've been assistant coach at Virginia Union. I've been the head coach at LC Bird going on 6 years. And we're changing lives. And, Mike, what can I do as a coach to help my players with mental health and that's been through trauma like yourself?
I would say pick a time, have a team meeting. This is something that worked for me and my guy. I do that with my players now. I don't have a football team, but I train a lot of guys, and we do yoga, we do meditation. Um, Not only that, but we do something called where we put a guy in the seat. Put a guy in the seat, and you're able to talk about everything or anything that you want to talk about that's on your mind, that's been bothering you. Um, Everything is cool in this room. It don't go outside of this room. Tell these guys your story. So I would I would uh, I would recommend you do something like that. Like let them go up in front of the team and tell them their story, because that's how you create that bond with the other players. The other players are gonna respect that other player now. Like, damn, I didn't know he went through that. You know, it'll stop a lot. Cause sometimes we got locker room tension. It'll stop a lot of players that don't like each other. Like, I ain't no bro went through that. Like, no wonder he quiet like that. No wonder he don't talk much, or no wonder he go off like that. Like, so let them really get to know each other by letting them go up one by one, tell their story, what they've been through. I think that's a great coping mechanism for not only to build a great team, but to basically let them get what's off their chest too. Is a coping mechanism for them as well.
Doc, what you thinking?
I absolutely love that idea. I'm taking some mental notes, as you're speaking, and I think building those relationships or creating that platform, coach, that you're doing for kids to feel safe in a space to be able to do that. You really are doing, God's work, and it's one of those areas that I think is a priority over sport or anything else that's going on. If they have a space where they're comfortable to speak about how they're feeling and what's going on in their life, and you're navigating them through that, that's absolutely huge, because they're going to carry that and never forget that for the rest of their lives. So it got me really fired up to hear you say that, man. That's an awesome idea. I love it.
Like the name of the book is Grief Through His Eyes, and everybody grieves differently.
Mm-hmm.
So like your dad, he went away for 40 years. Your mom died of cancer. Like, dude, I don't even know if I ever grieved my mom dying, because I don't even think about it. I don't even think about her.
Well, we don't have time. We don't have time because we athletes. We coaches. We athletes.
Yeah, I was right
And we
coaching
always on the
7-on-7 the same week. And we got into a huge fight, and I got banned from the University of Richmond by Latrell Scott. Yeah, coach. Coach, I'm controversial, coach. I am the most penalized coach on any level of all time. That's from Gene Steratore. I'm the coach of the Brook Boys. I'm the coach at Virginia Union. I'm the coach at LC Bird High School. Yeah. When we come, man, it's fun. Because we went down there and scrimmaged Oscar Smith. My second year of Bird, ain't nobody lining up to scrimmage Oscar Smith. Nobody. They got to go play Booker T. Washington.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's almost fun to have a coach who's a wild man. I mean, I don't know. Talk about the coaches that you had, like good and bad. Did you have coaches that didn't care about you as a person, that only cared about winning? How do you know? How did that affect you, Mike?
Well, my first coach, which was my middle school coach, Raymond Davis, he cared about me, but I didn't understand what he was doing. He cut me my 7th grade year, and that's because I was in the drug game. I was in the streets really, really bad, and he wanted me to get out of the streets. It was words on the streets that I was doing some very some bad things, and he wanted me to get out of that. So he said, if you really want to play football, you're not gonna play this year. But if you really want to play football, I'm gonna let you play your 8th grade year, but you gotta prove to me that you are that you really want to play football. Okay. And I proved that, but I was still in the streets, But he saw improvement, so he let me be on the team. My high school coach, he was a motivator. He Coach Morgan was terrifying. Coach Richard Morgan was terrifying. He had every guy from the hood making honor roll in school. It's not because, and I take that back, it's not because we were scared of him. It was a certain respect that he built for us.
Amen.
We respected him. We respected what he did. We respected how he moved. We respected how he would listen to us. He gave a kid from South Norfolk a chance of a lifetime, and we ended up winning a state championship together. First state championship in school history. And it was one time, we had all got in trouble, and he told me, he said, you want to go back and start doing gang member stuff, and or you gonna become disciplined, and because that's what you got to learn, discipline. And that's what's been wrong with you for so many years, undisciplined. And he always installed that in me. He the reason that I'm so organized today. He the reason that I train my guys the way I train my guys. He's the reason that I approach the game the way I approach the game. He was an amazing asset to my team. He was an amazing asset to me because without him, I wouldn't have been in college or anything. When I got to junior college, we already spoke about Coach Maharo, so enough being said about that. When I got to the U, it got confused because I was so used to winning. You know, I'm a state champion. At East LA, we had a decent record. It wasn't that bad, but it wasn't that good either. But when I got to Miami, that's when the mental health started kicking in with my mother. That's when it started hitting me. And so I had a couple problems. I ran into a couple problems, you know, with the coaching staff because for one, they wasn't honest with me about the scheme that we were running. They told us that we were going to run a certain scheme, and then when we got there, it was something totally different. And so a lot of players were upset about that because I was coming out of junior college, so we ain't got no time to really play around or anything like that. We got to get it, you know, because we only got 2 years left. It's not like we're a freshman or anything like that. So, and then on top of that, we're grown men. When you come out of junior college, you're 20-some years old, you know, when you're going into that college. So you just spent your freshman and sophomore year in junior college. So when you go to a D1 school, you older than all the other kids. You the old head on the block. So you understand the game more. You understand, you know, what you need to do and everything like that. So it's different compared to a freshman that you're talking to. So when I came to Miami, you know, it was more about business. It was more about you know, it was more about, okay, what defense we're gonna be running, how we gonna do these things, how we gonna do this thing. And the information that, you know, he told me, it wasn't that. So that we started off on the wrong foot. But and then on top of that, our defensive coordinator, he didn't I'm not gonna say he didn't do well, but it wasn't well enough for him to stay at Miami. So they ended up firing them all.
Yeah.
You know, when we went against Deshaun Watson, you know that kind of sealed the deal right there. So, you know, Deshaun Watson. So yeah. So it was a learning curve with them. It was a learning curve with Al Golden. But he's a great guy, man. He was a great guy. But you know, when you get up to that level, you start to really learn about the nature of the football business
Oh yeah.
And these young kids now, they don't know that it's a business. They don't understand that it's a business. They think that it's a game. And if you going in there thinking this is a game, you're gonna get your feelings hurt. You know, so he was a great person, but he wasn't the right fit for me as a coach. You know, but he was a great person. And when I got up to Green Bay, Coach Jerry Montgomery was one of the best defensive line coaches I've ever seen, and Mike McCarthy. You know, he was. I was so grateful for that experience. That experience was unbelievable, man. It was a dream come true to be able to get coached up by Mike McCarthy, to be able to get coached up by Mike T and Jerry Montgomery. That was I took a lot of mental notes from that and learned a lot, and I'm able to teach my guys the same thing. So that's what kind of sparked my coaching interest for real when I was there, because I knew I was leaving. When I left Green Bay, I knew I was leaving the game as far as a player for good. Because my nephew, who I was like a father figure to, got shot in the face and killed. I received a phone call about that when I was in the locker room, in Green Bay locker room. I'm thinking that, they calling on FaceTime because, they excited for me and they wanted to see the locker room. I was going to show them the locker room. And when they called me, they had me on FaceTime. There was yellow tape everywhere. And I had to go out there on the practice field. And I told Coach McCarthy, I said, regardless, if you keep me or not, this it for me. I want to go back. I want to be a coach, and I want to prevent this thing from happening again. So I had some great teachers along the way, and I'm grateful for all of them, good and bad, because, like I said, I put it like this. Like I said, I don't consider a bad coach a bad coach. He because when you meet him off the field, it's different. It's just sometimes on the field, coaches
You can
get out
separate
coached.
the difference. You can
Huh?
separate between he's a good person, but he's
Yeah,
not an effective coach. Because
he
bottom
not
line is, if you don't win, you go.
right. He's not an effective coach. So, and that showed. I mean, you can't hide at Miami. You on national television.
Now, I want to mention a couple guys that I know that you might have been down there with. One of them is named Eddie Johnson from Selma, Alabama. He was a linebacker. And then Ray Lewis, who just passed away, Ray Lewis's
I was
son.
there with him for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
both of them played for us at Virginia Union. And Ray Lewis, I loved him. Man, I loved him. I did a video about Ray, man. Talk a little bit about Ray, man, because I loved him.
Well, it kind of get me emotional because we was actually really really cool, and
Man.
I knew some personal things that I'm not gonna put out there that he was going through. Trust me, everything that he was going through now, currently, before he passed, he was going through at Miami. So I ain't gonna really speak on that too much, But I thought the world of him. He never felt like, oh, I'm a celebrity, son. I could talk to you any type of way. He
Never.
want that guy. He want that guy. He was the most normal individual you could ever meet. Hang out with you, go anywhere with you. Like he not even Ray Lewis' son. Like he
Man.
go anywhere with you. So, life of the room.
Yes.
He was the class clown. He was.
Yes.
But heart of gold, man. He definitely checked on me when I was going through some adversity when I was at the U. He definitely checked on me, man, and I'm sad it had to come to this, man. Like, I was a couple of my former teammates text me the news, man, and it was devastating to me to hear that, man. But man, funny dude, he the life of the room, man, for real.
Yeah, I don't know if y'all watched the video that I made, but I just talk about Ray. Like I was a high school coach. Mark James, who was from South Florida, he's from Dillard High School and from Boyd Anderson in Fort Lauderdale. He hired me, but I was a recruiter. And, I kind of hung my hat on recruiting guys. You going to the Packers made me think of Will Stanback. Will Stanback played for us, and both of his parents died within a week of each other, and he got cut by the Raiders because of it. He's up in Canada now playing. He played at UCF. He was a tailback there. Will Stanback, the bowling ball. Woo!
And the sad part is this football business don't care about it. It's sad to say, but they don't care about your mama passing. They don't care about your daddy passing or your daddy going to prison. What can you do for me? Can you sack the quarterback now? Can you get me a tackle for loss? Can you get me QP pressures now? Can you do that now? Because if you can't do that, I'm gonna give you a first class ticket back to the crib.
Yeah, amen.
And that's just the way it goes. They don't care about your personal life. They don't care. They care what can you do for this company. And that's what kids are missing right now. They don't understand that football, you are working for a company.
Yeah, it's a business.
You are working for a company. So you got to handle yourself
multi-million dollar.
Huh?
Multi-million-dollar company.
Yes, sir. Yes,
and
sir.
Just to go back to the recruiting thing, because Doc, I know you hang your hat on that. I had a kid. This was back when I was at Meadowbrook. It was probably like 2013, 2013 or 2014. I had a freshman who was on the varsity, and he was not starting. I had a senior tailback. He knew all the plays. He started the year before. He knew all the protections. He was a great player. And this freshman was the backup. So the dad came to me, and he starts talking about offers and talking to colleges. And I said, sir, why would you want to feed your son to the sharks? Like, because, dude, 90% of them, they don't have a soul anymore. That junk's been sold. And why would you want to let your kid be a kid, man? Focus on making good grades and being a good kid and working hard. The rest will take care of itself. Talk about that a little bit. The recruiting. I mean, it got to one of my guys who I think the world of, and recruiting got to him. I mean, talk about that whole pressure and process that kids go through with that. And these coaches are, I mean, they're used car salesmen.
Yeah, they definitely car salesmen, and you know they'll sell you a dream too. That's their job. To sell you a dream. If you're paying out, you're paying out. But that's their job to sell you to them. You know, to get you there. And you know, you got to understand that, like, you know, what type of system you want to play in. You know, these kids are getting caught up in the offers and all that now, man, and what they call it now, because they won't help when I was playing with the NAI deal.
The NIL, name, image, likeness.
Hey, look, I like it. I like it, but this is the reason I don't like it too. I like it because it'll help out kids like me, that come from the hood, that don't have no money. So it's good for kids like me, but it's also bad for kids like me, because you give me $1 million as a kid, my mama don't know how to handle $1 million. We live in Section 8 public housing. How you gonna help me? Well, you gonna help me spend it. That's all. We ain't gonna invest nothing. So it's no finance. They missing financial education. You know, so that's the bad part, that they giving these kids all this money without any financial education. I think that they should have to take a class first, them and their parents, before, you know, all of that goes on, if they could do something like that, because financial education, especially in the areas where you find the most great football players at, which is in the projects, and let's just keep it real.
Yeah, it's a gladiator sport, man.
Yeah,
and
so
you got, if you're a gladiator, you got to pay the price, man. You know,
yeah. So
not everybody has to pay the price.
That's the only bad thing about giving a kid from the hood an NLI deal. They parents don't know what to do with that money, and they don't know what to do with that money. So it's a recipe for disaster, and it's gonna crash a lot of relationships. It's gonna cause a lot of problems. It's gonna cause a lot of problems at home.
A coach said, I don't know who it was, but it was so smart. They were like, yeah, they're getting $100,000, but they're paying Uncle Sam half of it. So like they're really getting $50,000, and the government's getting their cut half. You know, because I mean, we're talking about a lot of money if they're getting paid anything. Doc, what you think? What's on your heart?
Yeah, I think he touched on some good points. I think financial literacy should be mandated. It shouldn't even be optional. If you're going to, it's kind of the same way people navigate through a scholarship. You know, people don't know the ins and outs of the different tiers of scholarship from top to bottom. Well, the same thing should be with NIL deals. They should have something in place to protect the student athlete in school. You know, basically saying, hey, look, you know, this is what you're getting. This is how much you're going to have to pay in taxes. This is not generational wealth. This is a short-term transactional piece of money, and while you're here, you're going to get it. And then, but what happens when you graduate? What does that look like? You know, an X, Y, and Z. And I think another point, you know, as far as the recruiting piece that you guys brought up, you know, I've been on both sides of the fence, so I know how to navigate through bad people. And there's certain people I won't send my kids to. I'm not going to mention their names. I'm not going to mention their schools, but there are some really bad people out there. And it's us as coaches, we got to help our kids and those families navigate through who those bad people are, because you don't want to be in a situation like Coach just said, where, hey, you're coming in with expectations to run a certain scheme. They're going to use you a certain way. They're going to do X, Y, and Z for you, and then you get completely blindsided. Now, on top of that, this young man's going through some trauma off a death in the family. How is he supposed to perform at the highest level when you can't hold your end of the bargain? So, like you said, it's a very scary game. It's a very scary business. But if you don't have the right people around you and those supports in place, it's going to be tough for you. It's real tough for these kids nowadays. Look at the transfer portal.
Yeah,
That thing's jumping like hotcakes, ain't it?
yeah, Mike. Like, I want to ask you, like, what could have been done differently to help you? What if you could have gone back in time and made it right? What could the people have done differently? Like maybe there's a Michael Wyche out there today who may be going through the same thing. What could those people that are in place? What could they do? And then I wanted to ask you about the generational curse. Why is the name of the book Generational Curse? So first, what could be done to help the Michael Wyche now that may be going through it?
Well, for me, you said what could I have done differently first, right?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, but
Nothing.
you had that pain. I mean, you
It's
were going
nothing.
through it.
I was supposed to go through everything that I went through the exact way it was supposed to go.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't chosen to have a 20-year NFL career. God didn't choose me for that. He chose me to go through all these problems, every bit of adversity, so it can shape me into the man of the day. So for me to be what I am today, which is a teacher to football players.
Mm-hmm.
That's my calling. So nothing, coach, nothing. I suppose I had went through that. I suppose I got locked up. I suppose I caught a gun charge. I suppose I had, went home to sleeping in. Me and my mama sleeping in our vehicle. I suppose I went through all of that. I don't regret none of that because I wouldn't have the Michael Wyche story.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have it. It wouldn't exist. So everything was meant to happen so I could put in a book and become a best-selling author like I am now. I'm a best-selling author. You know, so those things are. I'm happy. I'm happy at my story. I'm happy at my story because now I can teach young men that now, okay, you need to do it this way. Because I'm gonna tell you what I did and it didn't work for me, and I'm a living testimony. And here you can read my book. They can see it. You might not want to do it that way because you're gonna end up here. You might not want to do it that way because you're gonna end up here. When you listen and when you look at people's mistakes and you know not to go that way, that's genius. That's what geniuses do. They capitalize off other people's mistakes. So that's what I'm teaching my guys now. I'm teaching my guys not only about the art of pass rush, the art of run stopping. I'm teaching these guys about financial literacy, about decision making, life, how to overcome. Because I had to overcome a lot of these things. I was chosen. I was the chosen one. I was chosen to go through these things. So my guys can perform at an elite level now, and I can take care. He chose me to become a business, start a business. So now I can be able to take care of these kids that's in the hood that need some extra money, that need food, all of that. They got Mr. Entrepreneur to look up to now. We had Mr. Dope Dealer to look up to. And Mr. Dope Dealer didn't know nobody because he looked up to Mr. Dope Dealer. So now I broke that generational curse, and now they got Coach Mike, Mr. Entrepreneur to look up to. I'm in the real estate. I'm in the trucking now. So if football don't work out, yeah, I played football at the highest level. I've made All-American. I went to JUCO and came out and was one of the top D tackles in the nation. I'm the first from here to play, from Hampton Roads to play at the University of Miami. Most people don't even know that. So I did all those things, and now I can teach them how to navigate through this game of life, man. And I wouldn't have it no other way, man. I'm supposed to be here. So nothing, coach. I love it here. I love everything I went to. I wouldn't change my story. If I had to go back and do it all over again, I wouldn't change it. at all. I deserved everything that I went through, and I embrace that. I embrace that every day I wake up.
You know, you're right, because the guy that coached me, he's special. His name's Matt Bland. He's the reason LC Bird has ever been good at football. He says the more you've been through, the better your story. I mean, if you ain't never been through nothing, I mean, what kind of movie is that? I woke up, I went to bed, we ate, I went to college, then I got a job, then I got a house, I mean, your story's a lot better because of the pain that you've been through. It's like David Goggins. Like, on the other side of suffering is greatness. And I mean, that's the dude that's been through it. So, Doc, like, what else you got for Mike? Mike, is there anything that we haven't touched on that you want to talk about?
You say you want to get into generational curse?
Yeah, man. I want to talk about the generational curse. Yeah, Doc, you got anything you want to ask him?
Nah,
Okay.
I love the fact that he's utilizing real life applications, man. He's not using his grief as a crutch, as a mechanism to make excuses. He's looking for a way in and trying to navigate these young minds to understand it. Hey, here's some of my trials and tribulations, and here's what worked for me and what didn't work. But he lived that life in order to give back to the people that need it most. And man, it's inspiring, man. Your smile as you're speaking, man, gets me absolutely fired up because you're doing things the right way, and you went through hell but came out on top, and you got the biggest, most genuine smile as you're speaking, man, because you're speaking from passion, and it doesn't feel like work. It's what you're doing, man, because you're really doing your passion. So you're really pouring into it, man. I'm looking forward to meeting you, man. I'm gonna figure out a way to get down that way to do it, man. We're gonna meet in person. I'm excited.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it, man. And hey, man, we got to find a way to get a book in them players' hands too, because all of them need to read it, man. All of them. We got to figure out a way. So all of them need to read it. It's gonna help them out. It's gonna help them perform better, and it's gonna teach them how to turn their pain into purpose. That's the most important thing. Because I say a quote in the book, right, that sometimes your biggest opportunities are going to come at your darkest moments. And I said that quote when I was at East LA, because now here I am, I'm grieving over my mother. My best friend just got shot in the head on his doorstep. My teacher, who was a mother figure to me, just committed suicide. Right? This is all in the same week, Coach. This is all in the same week. So this game that I'm preparing for, T. Martin comes out there to East LA, and Ed Orgeron. This before Ed Orgeron went to LSU. T. Martin comes out there first, and we out there doing one-on-ones. I'm going crazy out there. Maharo got the whole thing jumping. We going crazy out there in one-on-ones. And T. Martin watching. T. Martin actually came there for somebody else, and he ended up seeing me. Then here come Ed Orgeron. He get on the phone, call Ed Orgeron. Then he get on the phone, call Lane Kiffin. So our first game of the season, I got every Pac-12 school on the sideline. I got every SEC school, Big 12. Every conference you could ever name in Division I football was at that game. Now here I am, emotional wreck, suffering in silence. And I told myself, man, sometimes your biggest opportunity is gonna come at your darkest moment, dog. But you gotta get through this. I had to muster up the strength. I had to muster up the energy to finish this thing off, And I went out there, and me and my D-line took over. We took over the game. And I say we did it as a unit because we set a school record that game with like 13 sacks in one game.
I would have quit throwing the ball.
Yeah, no, hey, man.
I would have quit throwing the ball after about 8 sacks.
We went crazy out there. Christian Arcio. I don't know if you remember him, Coach. Christian Arcio. Oh my God, he owns his own thing now. He's in the insurance and all that now, doing really well for himself. And we still talk to this day. I still talk to my teammates, defensive line guys to this day, because that East LA defensive line was, when I was there, was the highlight was me, but those guys, if they wouldn't have did their jobs, I wouldn't have been able to get the looks that I got. So I take my hat off to my D line, man. We ate that game, and I ended up getting every scholarship offer. And when I went to the locker room, it kind of like just poured on me, fell in the floor and started crying, man. You know what I'm saying? Because it was a long way coming from South Norfolk, and that was a bittersweet moment for me. Being strong for so long, and then to finally get those scholarships because my grades were messed up, so I couldn't go to Clemson out of high school because I was supposed to go to Clemson out of high school. So to be able to regain all my scholarship offers back was truly a blessing. And I did that for my mom, I did that for my teacher, and I did that for everybody who went through adversity, so I could have something to talk about. So that was one of the biggest highlights of my life at East LA when I went off that game and got all those scholarships. So sometimes your biggest opportunities are gonna come at your darkest moments. And I had scholarships on the line. And what you gonna do? You gonna fight or you gonna fold? It's that simple.
Hey, Mike, I got a question for you, kind of pertaining to that. So obviously you had offers from everywhere in the country, and obviously you had a great experience at East LA. Well, great, and you had some trauma that went on, but you still rose above it. And so, who helped you navigate through those schools and kind of qualify with everything that was going on in your life at that time? And every school was banging on your door. I know you just mentioned USC, and you have all these opportunities to play at the highest level. How were you able to qualify and navigate through that and make that final decision to go to Miami?
Steve Mahara. Steve helped me because my family don't know nothing really about football for real. Steve Maharo, between Steve Maharo and Keith Burnell, who was my mentor, who I was staying with, who was a former NFL player himself. So between Steve Maharo and Keith Burnell, I was able to navigate. Cause the funny thing about Miami was I was actually supposed to go to Louisville with Lamar Jackson. I was actually supposed to, and people don't know that though. I decommitted from Miami for a little bit, and because of they was trying to make me come in the summertime. It was I forgot what it was, but it was a it was a it was a admissions issue because they private school, so they finally got it right. But I ended up decommitting from them, and I was gonna go to Louisville, but that ended up getting stopped. I ain't gonna tell you how that got stopped, but these schools out here are tricky. They got some pull, but they ended up stopping my transcript ended up getting stopped at the University of Miami for going to Louisville somehow. So I don't know how that happened, but yeah, I was supposed to go to Louisville. And yeah, man.
With the relationships you built, with those younger kids in your area, the high school teammates, East LA college teammates, Miami teammates, talk a little bit about, those relationships you forged with them and how much has that helped you get to where you are now and be able to better relate to the kids you're dealing with now. Just that relationship component that you maybe necessarily didn't get from home because all these things were going on in these different dynamics. How much did you count on people in your corner, your fellow teammates to get to, again, where you're at now, if that makes any sense?
Oh, big time, big time. That's the great thing about football, man. You meet brothers that you gonna be friends with for a lifetime, man. Outside of football, like I said, East LA. That's been years ago. That was in 2000, what, 12, 13, something like that. Yeah, and me and Christian still friends to this day. We text, we talk. A couple other guys at East LA I still talk to. I still talk to a couple guys in Miami, Green Bay. So you kind of build a network of friends, and those relationships are important, especially coming from where I come from. When you really ain't, you got family, but sometimes your family are your friends that you make along the way too. They become more family than your actual family. So, and that's kind of what happened for me, and I'm grateful for those guys, man.
Have y'all seen because you saying that about your friends becoming closer to family. Have y'all seen a movie called Peanut Butter Falcon?
No, I ain't never seen that one.
Yeah, it's a good movie. It's about a kid who's got Down syndrome, but he's like 25, and they got him living in some old folks' home. And it's like based on Huckleberry Finn or something. But like the main point in the movie is like friends are family that we get to choose. And then the guy asks him, he says, I'm going to die. And he goes, yeah, you're going to die. And then he goes, he says, yeah, you're going to die, but what kind of story are they going to tell? So, like, that's two good points from today. Like, we're all going to die, but what kind of story are they going to tell? And then friends or family that you get to choose. Did you know Brandon Ross, when you were with the Packers? Do you know who that is?
Brandon Ross.
He's a DB. He's a DB scout. I don't even
Yeah,
know
I
if he
knew
was.
Brandon Ross. Yeah.
Yeah, he played for me in high school at Meadowbrook High School. He went to Youngstown State University. He's a DB scout.
Wow.
Brandon Ross. Dude,
Yeah.
Brandon Ross, as a sophomore, we won the state championship, and we pulled him up. And the reason we pulled him up is because he lived in the same neighborhood as me and my brother, and it wasn't in the Meadowbrook district. He was a sophomore. Well, we won it all. We beat Hampton. Tyrod Taylor's a sophomore. Then we beat North Stafford. And they called him Free Ride because he got pulled up from JV and he got a ring. And a dude that they called Free Ride, played like 4 or 5 years in the league, and now he's a scout for the Packers. So it's a small world, ain't it, Coach?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Man. It's small, man.
Small world, man. But we from the same place, man. 757-804. It's all love. People know that I'm crazy, and they always want me to talk junk about the 757. But I can't talk junk about, the Godfathers, Mike Smith, Bill D, Richard Morgan, Mike Tomlin, Michael Vick, Allen Iverson. Like, I'm not talking. It's all love in VA. Like, I'm not beefing with the 7-5.
I love the football y'all got going on up there.
They look, man. I was like East LA and what other part of LA, dude? I don't even know where California is on the map. I know it's a big state on the West Coast. Yeah. But I know the little triangle.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, VA, baby. So, Coach, thank you for coming on. Is there anything else you want to say before we sign off?
I recommend everybody go grab that book, Grief Through His Eyes, Volume 2. It's a great book, man, to help you turn your pain into purpose. Is great book for your family to read, to start the healing process, because it's okay to not be okay. You know what I'm saying? Tell people you okay. You know what I'm saying? So that's the most important thing right now. I think as a world, man, as a people in this world, we need to heal. And I'm free now, man. I'm married now. I'm a married man now. I got 2 beautiful daughters.
Amen.
Man, and man, I'm just happy that I'm not in prison, because I could be in prison or I could be in the graveyard right now.
Me too.
What I used to do. This game of football has saved me so much. And that's why I love this game, because at one point, when I left the Packers, I left the game for good because it left me with a heavy heart. But I found myself back in this game because, man, there ain't no plan B for us, man. We love this game, man. We love this game, and this game has done so much for me and my family. And I'm happy to be back in it, coaching, training guys now, man, and not only training their bodies and their technique, but their mind as well, man. But definitely grab Grief Through His Eyes, Volume 2. The way you can grab it, text area code 920-930-1247. Text that.
And I'll put the link in Twitter in the description.
Just text them, I need one. Text them, I need one. Text that number, I need one. And I'm going to personally sign it, and I'm going to ship it off to you. But text I need one, the words I need one to 920-930-1247, man. And I hope everybody enjoy that book. I know they're going to enjoy it. It's going to inspire them. And it's going to save and change a lot of lives, man.
Amen. All right, I'm going to press end right here, and we'll just hang on and talk for a little second. All right, y'all. Thank you.